Welcome to Infinity News Channel. Ukraine rides a peak. Russia's military bases blown up. Helicopters and tanks destroyed. When the Russian leader Putin began his invasion of Ukraine, he thought the war would end in a few weeks. As the war approaches its first year, Putin has been stunned by the successes of the Ukrainian army. The Russian army's losses are mounting against an increasingly strong Ukraine. As the war intensifies, new developments reveal the extent of Russia's losses. One of the new developments, which is a critical threshold in the Russia-Ukrainian war, occurred recently in the city of Kadivka in Luhansk Oblast. The occupying Russian army was surprised by the attack from the Ukrainian side. Russia uses factories and workplaces in the occupied Ukrainian territory as ammunition depots, hospitals, and military bases. Ukraine can easily detect these Russian bases through the work of intelligence units and unmanned aerial vehicles. At the same time, the United States intelligence services share information on Russian bases with Ukraine. The Ukrainian army continues to destroy Russian military bases with important intelligence information. The Ukrainian army recently blew up a Russian military base and field hospital. The destroyed military base and field hospital were located in the city of Kadivka. The Ukrainian Directorate for Strategic Communications announced that the hospital used to be a machine-building factory. It was stated that the bombed hospital housed soldiers loyal to Chechen leader Kadyrov. The Ukrainian army said the following in a telegram post about the attack. The dispensary, a former machine factory, was hit high-precision weapons. The Ukrainian army destroyed the military base and hospital used by the Russian occupiers with the USA HIMARS missiles, according to the footage circulating on social media. The Russian military base and the building housing the hospital, which used to be a machine-building factory, and falling to the ground. It's claimed that more than 100 Chechen soldiers were killed in this Ukrainian attack. Ukraine continues to ride the peaks against Russia in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts. Immediately after this destruction one of the Russian military base and hospital in Luhansk, a similar development that will change the course of the war took place in Donetsk Oblast. The Ukrainian Air Force managed to shoot down 3 Russian helicopters and a fighter light jet in 30 minutes. In the statement made the General Staff of the Armed Forces and the Ukraine, it was stated that 3 helicopters destroyed in 30 minutes in the city of Yevhenka in the Volnovka region were Ka-52 model attack helicopters, while the fighter jet was a Russian Su-25 model, came off Ka-52 attack helicopter is known as a Soviet-made helicopter model that can be used in all weather conditions and can successfully hit targets at a low speed, including military personnel, and shown as a rival to Apache attack helicopter used by the USA Army. The loss of such important air attack equipment is a great loss for Russia in the war. Destroying 3 Russian helicopters in 30 minutes, the Ukrainian army has rendered nearly 300 Russian helicopters unusable since the start of the war. The Ukrainian army recently published a remarkable report on the clashes in the Zaporizhzhia region. In the report prepared by the General Staff of the Ukrainian army, it states that Tiger tanks of the Russian invaders were destroyed at the same time. It states that hundreds of Russian soldiers were killed in the clashes in Kherson. Right next to the Zaporizhzhia region, it was also shared that some of the wounded in the local hospital in the Kherson, which was full of Russian occupiers, were went on Crimea for treatment. The General Staff of the Ukrainian army shared the following information about Russia's losses in Zaporizhzhia. In the report, according to the data, as a result of clashes, Russia occupiers lost more than 50 people. In addition, 9 weapons and different types of military equipments were destroyed. 6 BMP units and 1 armored vehicle Tiger and other 4 units were damaged. The losses of the Russian army are not limited to this. Since the beginning of the war, the Russian army has lost thousands of soldiers and military equipment. Russia's losses are as follows. More than 125,000 military personnel, 3,200 tanks, 6,400 armored combat vehicles, more than 2,000 artillery systems, more than 450 reactive volley fire systems, 250 air defense systems, 300 aircraft, 300 helicopters, more than 5,000 tanks and automotive equipment, 20 military ships and boats, 790 cruise missiles, 2,000 UAVs, 200 spatial machines and 4 tactical missile systems. With these losses, Putin can no longer cover up his failure in the war. The soldiers' unwillingness to fight and the gradual decrease in the number of experienced soldiers in the army are shown as the biggest reason for the failure of the Russian army. Unable to find soldiers, Putin found the solution by sending the Wagner group of mercenaries and prisoners released from prison to the front. This situation caused by problems within the Russian army. The compulsory mobilization announced in the Russians caused soldiers who did not want to fight to join army. An image shared on social media showed the incompetence of inexperienced Russian soldiers. The video shared by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. It almost mocked Russian soldiers in the video, which shows Russian soldiers sitting on a military vehicle on tank moving senselessly causes an accident. The operator of the tank moving to the tank back and forth suddenly approaches the vehicle next to the Russian soldiers. The Russian soldiers sitting on the military vehicle suddenly get caught in the barrel of the tank and fall. The funny accident shows the state of the Russian army. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense shared this footage with comedy music and lottery effects. The ministry added the following comment to its post. The biggest threat to mobilized Russian infantry is mobilized Russian tanks. Recruits are not the only problems in the Russian army. The biggest problem for the occupiers is the shortage of ammunition. The Russian army, which loses 500 soldiers on average daily, has also lost tons of ammunition. Most of Russia's missiles attacking Ukraine are successfully destroyed by the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukraine, on the other hand, has no shortage of ammunition, thanks to the support of the Western and the European states. An Estonian intelligence official recently made a statement about Russia. In the statement, Russia's decreasing ammunition problem was mentioned. The Estonian official stated that Russian attacks against Ukraine are now limited. The official underlined that the Russian army has only a 3-month attack capacity with ammunition it has. Russia, which has lost almost 700% of the territories it has occupied since the beginning of the war, has now reached the end of the war. Russian leader Putin is stubborn and is not accepting defeat and continuing the war. Putin, who has been trying to continue the occupation of mobilization, declaration, search for allies and bans inside the country, is now at the end of the road, having lost hundreds of soldiers and ammunition. Russia is no longer able to continue the war. Do you think Putin will end the war? How will the Russian army cope with their losses? What do you think about Ukraine's successful operations? We are not curious about your opinions. Follow us more updates. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to subscribe.